So here again, I'm in the Azure portal. Let's go click on the search box and type log analytics. So there we go, it pops up. I click on it. It takes us to the regular screen where you have log analytics workspaces. We have to create a workspace under log analytics. So that means that to get started with log analytics, you need to add an Azure workspace. We have the blade for log analytics. You have two options, whether you want to create a new log analytics workspace or link existing. We do not have any workspace at this point, so let's click on create new. And then you can just type a name. So we'll provide a name for the new log analytics workspace. I'll just call it as log, my caps is on, log analytics space. Okay. Now make sure that you follow your naming standards and conventions. We got a message there. Let's see what it is. The workspace name is already in use. Please try another one. What does that mean? It means that it must be globally unique, right? So take that off. Let's give it some creative name. It gave it a name like log space 321 and it accepted. Subscription is pay as you go in my case. Select a resource group. I'll prefer to create a new resource group specifically for this guy. Say lab and say okay. And which region do you want to host this? Pricing tier is also very important to understand. How much would you pay to store the logs from different sources into log analytics? Let's say you've got 100 Windows servers and you're gathering all kinds of logs like application, security, performance, setup, and all logs from your on-premise infrastructure as well as from Azure into log analytics workspace. Then we are talking about a lot of storage that it will be consuming. So we need to understand how much would you pay. Microsoft has a pricing tool here, so you can go and look at the log analytics pricing. And here you go. For 100 GB per day, you're being charged like $219 per day. For 200, it's $412. 300 is $604. So you may have to look at cost benefit analysis of using log analytics. The prices are right here, and to get onto this page I just clicked on this URL here which says log analytics pricing. Okay, for this demonstration I'll click on OK and we'll see what the bill will be, and click on OK and give it some time for it to create the workspace. There we go, our log analytics workspace is created. I'll click on it to see what options we have. Well, we've got numerous options, but first thing that we do is to start collecting data from our sources. Remember that log analytics is a place that will help us analyze the logs, just like the name it says. But where does it get the logs from? From the sources. And the sources could be your virtual machines, your storage, or it can be databases. Now to get those logs, we need to install an agent on the devices. It could be a virtual machine or physical machine or whatever kind of device it is. Where do we get the agent from now? And then click on quick start. And then it says choose a data source to connect to the workspace. Now if I have any Azure virtual machines, then they will be displayed right here. At this point I do not have any virtual machines, but let's see how you can install it on, let's say, AWS infrastructure or Google Cloud infrastructure or on-premise. Let's say you've got about 250 virtual machines and 30 physical machines sitting on your premise, and you want to install this log analytics workspace agent there on those machines. How do you do that? Well, you can just click on this computer section and download the relevant agent for Windows. It could be 32-bit or 64-bit. Depending on the agent you have, you may want to download this. What's interesting is that you also have an agent for Linux. You can use the wget command and then use these binaries in this GitHub location to download those binaries. During the installation of the log analytics agent, it will ask you, where should I connect to? What is your workspace? What is the primary key? Well, these are the variables that you need to input to the wizard for it to have successful connection to log analytics. In this case, I'll just go ahead and download a 64-bit version on my Windows laptop. Let's see if it can gather information from my Windows-based machine, which is a Windows 10 box. It will take some time to download it, and I'll pause it for a minute and then resume it once it is downloaded. Okay, looks like it is downloaded. Let's begin the installation of the agent. Now, this will be installed on a non-server based Windows system. This is a simple Windows based client, a Windows 10 machine. It's just like a regular installer, just next, next, next. And one thing to notice is that it will ask for the workspace ID and the primary key. Do you want to connect to Azure Log Analytics or SCOM? SCOM is a monitoring tool from Microsoft, and this is usually used on-premise. And this is usually used for on-premise based solutions. But because our solution is in the cloud, I'll select connect the agent to Azure Log Analytics and move on next. Now this is where I need to type in the workspace ID. Of course, I'll not type this in, just copy this, go back and paste it. Do the same thing with the primary key and paste it there. The kind of Azure cloud we're using is Azure commercial. It's not US government, it's not US China, it's a commercial one. If you have any proxy set up, then you may want to select a proxy. I'm connected directly to the internet without any proxy, so I'll just leave it there and click next. Like that. Just wait for the installation to do its job. Finally, do you want to have Microsoft updates? Well, I'll just select not to have it at this time and then let it install. Looks like the installation is complete. I'll just click on finish. So now that the installation is complete, let's go ahead and see if we can query certain logs from this machine and look at certain performance logs or identify what log analytics can find. I'll scroll down to the bottom here a little bit, and then you will see something called as logs. If you click on logs, you will see a screen that looks like query analyzer, something in SQL. So if you have worked on SQL, you'll see a similar box where you can type SQL queries. Now here I've got some preloaded queries, which is computer availability, and then you got certain metrics out there. You can also identify the performance of my machine and see what data is being collected, and then the data usage as well. I'm more interested to know the performance of my machine, so I will find out how much memory and CPU has been used in last hour. Let's click on run. Looks like it doesn't have all the data. So how do we configure this machine to get certain data and not get certain data? Because in production environments, you may not need all the data. And keep in mind that in cloud, you are paying per GB. So let's go and find out how you can configure the metrics that you want to calculate. To configure the kind of data that you want to gather in log analytics, you need to click on the advanced settings. Here you will see the number of virtual machines that are connected. For example, here you see that I have one Windows computer connected. Then under the data section, you can configure the data that you want to collect from the machine. So do you want to collect Windows events or performance counters? Or if it's a Linux machine, if you would like to gather certain Linux performance counters or IS logs. You got the logs on the screen and you just have to select what kind of events you want to pick up from your machine. Furthermore, you can click on this and start typing, let's say, performance. It will automatically populate the performance counters. So let's say audio related performance or device UX related performance or health related information of that machine. So there are a lot of options right here. Let's type security. Again, we got performance counters as far as security is concerned. So you can pick and choose the kind of data that you want to select and then click on add. Now from that machine, which has the agent installed, you will just get the security logs and you'll not get performance related issues or setup related or installation related logs onto Azure. So you are filtering what you need from the machine and then transporting those logs from that individual device to Azure. That ways you can guarantee that you have what you need and your bills will also not rise. I'll add few more counters here. Let's type performance because that's one of the favorite things that admins look forward for. Let's see NTFS performance. How is your disk doing? How about application? Anything specific related to application? Now this is not a Windows server. It's just a simple Windows 10 desktop. So I will not have any server related application issues, but I may want to gather the entire application log. And let's click on add. Now that should be good enough for the demonstration. And then I'll click on save, click on OK, and then refresh it to make sure that it's there. Go to the data, and then yeah, it's there. Close it, and then go back to my logs so that I can see the querying section. Now this log analytics provides the query syntax to quickly retrieve and consolidate data in the repository. You can create and save logs as well. So once you have the log written in this search box, you can save it for future queries. Let's see if we can run a few more sample queries. I'll click on the sample query and then click on computer availability to see if it is actually sending logs. Now I've got certain graphs here. The data is displayed in two formats. One is a table and second is a chart. If you look at the table, it tells me that there's one device that is sending the information to log analytics. And that's exactly right, because we got the agent installed on one device. We can also get it in a chart format. Let's run some more sample queries. Computer availability, scroll down, list all computer heartbeats from the last 1 hour. That's so interesting. Click on run and see what we get. There you go. We got so many heartbeat signals in last 1 hour. Although it's not been more than 20 minutes that we have installed the agent, but we got quite a lot of information from that machine. Yes, my desktop name is this, my IP address may be this, I'm not sure, but looks like the public IP that I have is as follows. But you can expand this and gather some more information there. Yes, it's a Windows machine, Windows 10, but how about looking at it in the form of a chart? Yeah, I'll click on the chart and see how the graphs automatically are created. So log analytics gives you a quick graphical view of the health of your environment. You can also add your own visualizations by clicking on these buttons. How do you want to see the graph? Like this, or probably in the form of a pie chart. And then eventually you can save these logs and save the data that you have gathered by just clicking on the save button. When you build a query like this here, you start by determining which tables of data that you want to query. On the left hand side, the schema of the logs is created. If you expand this, you will see the entire schema. What you're doing essentially is collecting the data from these tables. So when you build a query, you start by determining which tables of data that you want to query and what you're looking for. Each data source and solution stores its data in dedicated tables in Log Analytics workspace. And these are the dedicated tables I'm referring to. Let me pick up another query and show you maybe a complex query. Go to computer availability, computer performance maybe, and then look at this. Perf pipe summarized by object and counter name. Now, this is the basic structure of the query. It is usually followed by a series of operators separated by a pipe. For example, summarize by is an operator. So you can chain together multiple operators to refine the data and perform advanced functions. More pipes you have, more filtering and refinement you're doing. Log Analytics also has alerting inbuilt. So if there is certain statistics that you want to query for and also want to get alert, let's say if the CPU goes about 90% for a particular virtual machine and you want to get alerted, then you can have the alert tool set right here. You can also copy this information to the clipboard and save it, which we just spoke about. Most interesting thing is what you'll see is on the settings. Display the time zone. At times your virtual machines may be East US. There's no point looking at the times in UTC, so then you have to change it back to Eastern Standard Time. Do you want to sort the results? On or off? Table view, how many do you want to see per page? Smart diagnostics analysis. This is more of giving you certain patterns and correlating the information. Log Analytics query history is saved for 30 days. This is very important to know from the compliance and governance perspective. People may ask you, how many days is the Log Analytics data storing for? Now you know the answer. 30 days is the answer. And after that, the information is cleaned up based on first in, first out basis. So what is Log Analytics? Log Analytics is gathering the logs and also giving us statistics, helping us troubleshoot, gather the information, helping us identify any kind of abnormal behavior from a specific account, because logs from all the machines are just stored here and I can use the queries to get that information. Are users installing unapproved software? Are there any unexpected system reboots or shutdowns? Is there a security breach in last 30 days? Or any loose coupled applications having issues? Everything can be identified with Log Analytics, With proper querying and proper filtering, log analytics becomes a very powerful tool.